Hey guys, thanks for coming back and joining me for another video. So I'm going for my, I look like an old maths teacher with my hair and my glasses on like this. I'm just really tired today. So I listened to the podcast. I did it. I did the whole 47 minutes. That is 2,820 seconds of my life I'm not getting back. If you do see me in the street and you're passing by, please give me a cuddle. So I'm going to just get straight into it. And we started off with the typical Meghan story. About 2 years ago, my husband and I had dinner with another couple. And when leaving, the wife handed me a book that she felt that I would find interesting. Yes, how many of us have been out to a dinner party or dinner with friends and one of the wives at the end goes, "Wait a minute, I've got a gift for you. It's to do with the algorithms on oppression." It's a fantastic read. Let me get my bag. You would possibly not go out with that couple ever again. But of course, Meghan's got to have a storyline. She didn't just go, "Oh, I bought this book one day." There has to be a story behind it. So obviously this is the build up to Meghan talking about how she discovered algorithms in Google, all to do with, I guess it does boil down to racism against black women, because it's to do with, you type into Google, reportedly, Meghan's words, if you start typing the words black woman, it comes up with angry black woman, shouting black women, and that is what Meghan is trying to say with her latest stereotype. Now, Meghan does her usual where she talks, and eventually 3 minutes in, we get to hear from Ziwe. Now, Ziwe is an actress, she's a comedian and she's a writer, and she is also Nigerian American. Now, Meghan straight away jumps on this, and of course, Mimi has been launched. And she explains that 2 years ago, that no one's actually heard this story before, naturally, Meghan did a DNA test, and as it turns out, she's 43% Nigerian. Now, this has caused Twitter to go into a bit of a meltdown because obviously Meghan is biracial. She has one white parent and one black parent, and 43% is quite a lot. So I've done a DNA test myself, as you can see here. Me, I am definitely white as can be. I have, however, got Swedish, German, Welsh and Scottish thrown into the mix as well. So they are quite interesting to know. But you can tell that obviously with Meghan being 43% Nigerian, the fact that her guest happens to be Nigerian American, that Spotify just announced as well that Archwell has just given money, an undisclosed sum, to a couple of Nigerian charities, one of them being UNICEF, to do with Save the Children, because they have had devastating floods out there. And I just think her guest is Nigerian American, she's done donations, as I said, undisclosed amount, but now all of a sudden Meghan identifies as Nigerian. It's almost like it's just a little bit too contrived. Now, what people have pointed out on Twitter, which I was unaware of, I admit, I have been educated myself. It's probably why I've got my glasses on. It was too much for my little brain, just went poof. But being Nigerian is not an actual race. Being Nigerian refers to a citizenship. There are over 250 different ethnic groups and languages that make up Nigeria. So Meghan is 43% of 250 different ethnic groups. So I don't know, it's just something, it's quite a large block. As I said, she's biracial. The Markle clan are white as they come. They are Irish descendants, and Meghan does take after the Markle side, definitely when it comes to her skin tone. Now, this is one of those really tricky subjects, and this whole podcast, I was like, I'm not going to be able to talk about this. The reason being, when it comes to racism, I am not at a point where I can obviously talk about what other people have experienced because I was born white. I know, shocker. But it is the fact that I can't talk about other people's experiences of what they felt. All I can talk about is what I've seen, what I know my friends and family members have been through and have experienced themselves. So I see it from a backbench point of view. So I'm not going to criticize Meghan at all with anything that she says to do with racism, but I do find it absolutely hypocritical that now Meghan is identifying as a black woman. She's not even biracial anymore. She's written off the Markle clan. She's written off that entire side of her history and her family. And considering her dad was in her life until she met Harry, I find it insane that people are now like, she's a Nigerian princess. Good luck with that one. The problem is with Meghan, she lies as well, and she's lied about her heritage before. She turned round and said and did a shoot. She went on a photo shoot to Malta because she said that her great-great-grandmother was Maltese. Meghan posed in traditional clothes that relate to Malta, and she said in the interview it felt like she was beginning to understand where everything falls into place. Now, Meghan's great-great-great-grandmother was born in Malta to Irish parents that were basically travelling through, and as her grandmother grew older, they then went on and moved and emigrated to America. Meghan does not have a single drop of Maltese blood in her. So when Meghan actually went to Malta in search of her ancestry, she should have really been going over to Ireland, because that is the Markle clan. But as we are all guessing, this no longer fits Meghan's narrative because she has learnt to manipulate people with the race card. So as for Ziwe, she was gone before she even started. We'd have about 10-20 seconds of Ziwe actually talking, and then Meghan would talk over her. Quite literally, the podcast is cut, and it's like Meghan then has pre-recorded or post-recorded moments with this cheesy music in the background where she then starts explaining to the listener about Ziwe, about her life, about things that she's done. The girl was sitting there on the couch or in the studio with a microphone. Surely people listen to the podcast because they want to hear that person speak. So what we're actually having is they're allowed to say a couple of sentences, Meghan cuts them off, and then we have to listen to Meghan. And I'll be honest with you, at this point, I'm 6 minutes and 28 seconds in, and I'm saying, my notes actually say as I'm recording this, send help. At 8 minutes and 8 seconds, Ziwe is gone and Meghan is on to introducing her new guest. So bearing in mind that she didn't start talking till 3 minutes in, Meghan has been the one talking throughout this. I think Ziwe probably was heard for a total of 2 minutes maximum. So now we have Issa Rae on the couch talking to Meghan. As soon as we start off the formalities of, would you like a coffee? And Issa goes, no, because she doesn't want to be too caffeine high. This leads Mimi to rear her head and to then tell another little anecdote of coffee. Yes, when Meghan was in the UK, she didn't drink coffee. She didn't even think about it. It was like she was implying in the UK, we do not have coffee. Because Issa then goes on to ask her, well, when did you start drinking coffee again? Meghan says, that is a great question. That's a really great question. Is it, Meghan? Is it really? Is that really a great question? Oh, as for the way she's implying about coffee, I would like to point out those of you that have not been to the UK and not visited the UK, you go to any town, any high street, you can barely go 2 feet without a Costa Coffee, a Cafe Nero, a Starbucks, a Pret a Manger, and then they're the main ones. In between then you've got Turkish, French, Italian, Portuguese specialist coffee shops. And on top of that, you then have your normal cafes and cafes. Coffee is everywhere in the UK. Trust me, the UK, we are definitely coffee fiends, and we have gone that way totally in the past 20 years. As soon as a shop shuts down, it's another coffee shop opening up. So the fact that Meghan's implying that us Brits only drink tea, because she's only got back into it since she started having meetings and people have offered her coffee. It's just one of the most bizarre things that she's come out with. Next, she'll be saying that French people wear berets and wear garlic strings around their neck, and all British people have bad teeth. Stereotyping much, Meghan. So much like Ziwe, there is a lot of the moment that Issa starts talking, Meghan jumps in excitedly like a schoolgirl that just can't wait to tell her friends what she's done on a summer holiday. Even the smallest thing, like when Issa brought up that she actually was born in LA. Oh, the gasp, the scream, like Meghan didn't know this. Oh my God, did you know that Meghan was born in LA? It's my hometown, she screams giddily. It's a city that I grew up in. Everyone knows this, Meghan. But then she tacks on, it's also the city where Issa Rae was born and she now lives. Yes, we got that. We'd like to listen to more of what Issa actually has to say about her life. Meghan chimes in with a lot of our upbringing, a lot of we both. You know, it's just typical Mimi stuff. And so far, it's 12 minutes and 47 seconds in. And so far, all I've heard from Issa is no to a coffee and that she was born in LA. Mimi needs to seriously put down the microphone. Thankfully, it does start picking up, and it was actually beginning to get quite interesting. Issa talks about how she had one of her first big moments when she won a competition to be part of the TV show Moesha. Now, I remember Moesha. It was Brandy that played the main character, and I used to sit there after school and I used to enjoy watching that show. It was one of the shows that was on my list, up there with Home and Away, Neighbours, Hollyoaks, and there was another Australian one. It was an Australian high school. But obviously, talking about Moesha and black women being cast into roles, Meghan brings it back round to her, talking about how when she was going to castings, it was always for the role of the black girl. She always had to have an attitude or an edge to her. Well, that's funny because I'm sure 10 or 12 interviews ago, I lose count with Meghan, where Meghan actually says that when she was going for roles, she was always too white to play the black girl and then too black to play the white girl. That's why she didn't get roles. That's why she wasn't cast. I struggle to believe that casting directors would have gone, oh, Meghan Markle, look at her. She's white and it says Caucasian on her CV. Let's get her in to audition for the part of the angry black girl. It doesn't make sense, does it, with everything that she says? One thing that is becoming apparent, and I'm glad this is only the second podcast that I've listened to of Meghan, it's the way that she does it. It's like being on a dirty phone call, the way she speaks. My cringe factor is, my stomach is still in a knot from listening to it. It's the way she does a little giggle. You hear her between words when she's talking to herself, which is worrying, but it's like, that's amazing. And you're just like, wow, I feel uncomfortable. Get a room, girl. So 25 minutes in and we're finally now getting round to listening to people talk about dissecting the archetypes or the stereotype of the angry black woman. And she speaks to a doctor whose name I've had to put here because I didn't remember at the time and I didn't write it down in my notes. Naughty, naughty. But she basically, the doctor starts off by saying it's a stereotype, which kind of also undoes Meghan's archetypes again. But the one thing that is doing my head in with Meghan's podcast, it's all to do with racism and division. Let's be honest, this is not a positive podcast. This isn't about women that have overcome great challenges that can inspire other women. This is Meghan talking about trying to get everyone depressed, miserable, angry, bitter, and blaming everyone for everything. As I've said to you guys before, it's this modern way that you're never responsible for anything, for any decisions, anything that's ever gone wrong in your life. You have to be blaming someone. She is a succubus, and considering in her Variety magazine interview that Meghan said the only thing that she wants for the world is joy. She sure can suck the joy out of the universe one podcast at a time. Now, I'm going to say something a bit controversial here, and I never mean to upset anyone, but I feel like that I have got the right to say this. But Meghan has completely deleted and erased one side of her history. She is biracial. She is half white. Yes, she is also half black. But it's the way that Meghan does it. As I said, it's stoking the flames of racism. And it's something I can't get my head around. Meghan, like I said on her CV, she had herself listed as Caucasian, okay? Maybe this did help her get some more roles. I really don't know. But rather than it being a negative thing, Meghan was able to go and be all different ethnicities because of her colouring, but rather than it being a perk, it's always a negative with her. But she had white friends, white boyfriends, white husbands. She chose to go to a white sorority. She has been brought up with white culture. She hid the fact that she was biracial from her high school friends. They didn't even know, her teachers did not know all the years that Meghan was at high school until basically her mother came to her graduation. So Meghan had never had those conversations with her teachers, with her school friends and stuff. You know, so Meghan has hid that side to her life. And she tripped up recently as well because she said that she never identified as a black woman until she started dating Harry. And she was saying that she never experienced racism until she started dating Harry. Well, if that's the case, then she should be incredibly grateful and lucky that she's not faced racism her entire life. Every story that she's told over the past couple of years, her family members have debunked and said it's not true. Meghan's never gone through that. She never experienced the riots. She was protected. She never had any of this stuff that she's saying happened. And yet people still just believe her, and it's just insanity. Now, Meghan, as we know, is using her podcast to go back and to swipe at people, anyone that's wronged her throughout history. And she's gone back for the palace stuff, I believe, in this one. She talks about the fact that she's just a particular person, that she is perceived as an angry black woman, basically saying that the reason why people accused her of being a bully is because she's a black woman. woman because she's a strong black woman. The problem is with Meghan, it's got nothing to do with race and everything to do with how you talk to people. Now, Issa was talking about being labelled or being concerned about being labelled if she expresses that she's unhappy with something or she wants to change something. She was frustrated at something at work. And she said, you know, some people had called her difficult, people pushed back. And maybe there is an element of that is, you know, deep-rooted racism. I don't know. Is it to do with the fact people stereotyping her as an angry black woman? But then Meghan, as you can tell, was probably so excited and frothing at the mouth at the thought of, like, I've got something really juicy here that I can use. Issa then makes a great point talking about how a colleague once called her particular and a control freak. And, you know, she turned it into a positive. It meant that she had a particular taste, a particular point of view. Being a particular control freak, she said that she embraced it and she was quite, you know, she was happy with it. She didn't think that the colleague was trying to offend her. Well, Meghan obviously would have taken that and gone, oh, yes, no, he definitely, or she was, you know, deliberately trying to offend you. So Meghan then quickly switches the narrative round back to her favourite subject, which is Mimi. And she comes out with one of the most unbelievable things. I know there's so many of them, but this one takes the biscuit. Meghan is basically so frightened that people are going to call her an angry black woman that she tiptoes and cowers as she walks into a room. I'm allowed to set boundaries. It doesn't make you demanding or difficult. It makes you clear. So basically, Meghan is referring to the bullying allegations, being called Duchess, difficult for the things that she did. And she's saying she tiptoes and cowers as she walks into a room. I'm going to play you a clip here that I have recorded just for you guys, and we're going to see just how cowering and tiptoey Meghan is. This is Meghan the Wallflower, who was so rude to a man that was just helping her get out of the car on the wedding day. She shoos his hand away. This is Meghan who taps Harry, despite the fact that he's a senior royal, to make sure that she goes in front of him first with a little butt wiggle. Meghan barges into rooms even when she is not the guest of honour. Harry was meant to go first, and it is down to protocols and just being polite. Meghan is continuously tapping Harry that she must always go first. She literally shoves him out of the way to get into the centre of these people. She doesn't stop and take a step back. No, she shoves him. What about ignoring the organisers at this event in the middle of a town, telling Harry to move? Meghan was obviously meant to stand to the right-hand side and Harry to the left where there was more room so they could have their photograph taken. Meghan shoos Harry along and then the guys have to huddle half behind a statue wedged in. Meghan then arguing with Harry, refusing to sit down. Yes, this is the shy and quiet Meghan. Just sit down, Meghan. The chair's been pulled out for you. Interrupting Harry to be the centre of attention. Look at her face. She literally goes, I'm having none of this. Bang! She uses her back to block Harry completely out of it. Harry dared to start speaking to guests here and Meghan was ready to say something. Look at the way she grits her jaw and she glares at him. This is in front of people. When Meghan barged her way in front of Harry to shake the King and the Prince of Morocco's hands. Despite culture, despite customs, despite protocols, Harry was the prince. And this one, she is grabbing his shoulder and she is yanking him back so she can push in front. So guys, the question is for you, having seen that all put together, do you really think that Meghan tiptoes and cowers as she walks into a room? If she can treat her husband like this, can you imagine what she treats staff like? I'm pretty sure that we've all got a big picture now, and it's certainly not the image that Meghan is trying to sell of fun, giggly and full of joy. Nor does it equally make Meghan an angry black woman. It just makes her a very nasty person to work for. That's got nothing to do with her heritage and everything to do with her attitude. So now, thankfully, we have got 5 minutes and 24 seconds left before the end of the podcast. I'm like, whoo, I made it through this far and I haven't got drunk. Nearly lost it though when she says, now at the ending of all my podcasts, I like to recap the entire episode, who I've spoken to, what they've shared, and how it's made me feel. Please no, please no. But instead, today, I'm going to play a poem. Thank you. And there was actually a very good poem by none other than Maya Angelou. And it was called And Still I rise, and it's to do with the empowerment of Black women facing lots of criticisms and, I guess, stereotypes and things that they face.
You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
You can tell that Meghan is trying to get the listener to understand that she feels this poem is about her and how she resonates with it, because she says the final words of going, and still I rise. And then she continues using her sax voice. And I am going to do the sax voice. I'm sorry, guys. I've got to do it because you've got to get a little bit of what I went through. It was powerful. I had a great time with you. I hope you did too, and I can't wait to be with you again. Next week, we have a lot more in store. Have a good one, and until then, as ever, I am Meghan. I have to say, guys, I am done. Bye-bye!
If you would like to buy me a coffee, please go to my About page and click the link. Love, Taz.